background is quite technical. I worked 20 years ago in the Army already with F-15 and how do we create secure codes for real-time systems. That is a lot related to the infrastructure we're building here at Firmo. And I worked quite a bit within this space, about 3 years, very involved in the blockchain space. I helped Nordea with building infrastructure for KYC on blockchain, and we actually won a prize for that and published a couple of papers. And apart from it, I got super interested in this space because similar to Lilach, I think it's a game-changing technology. A bit early stage, as was said before, and we don't know when it's going to lead, but I'm super excited, and I think when I met the technology, I was like, especially in seeing the possibility of smart contracts, I felt like this is what I want to do in the next 10 years. It's something super exciting, and I was fortunate enough that at that time my university allowed me to become a professor, or assistant professor for blockchain technology, and also that I was able to work with some of the bigger organizations, such as Bancor and Colo Technologies, and be involved with it. So, but let me discuss a bit more about Firmo, and thanks a lot for coming and showing up today. That doesn't work. Okay. So, I'm not going to discuss about how volatile the crypto market is in details. As was mentioned earlier by Lilach, it reached almost a local maximum at least in the end of December, where the market cap almost reached a full $1 trillion. But one of the things you can see in this slide fairly quickly is that this market is, let's say, fairly volatile. Would that be an understatement about the crypto market? And while, let's say, some of us enjoy that volatility, especially when it's going up, it's hard to maintain economy with such a volatile market, right? We need to create real products, we need to create real ecosystem utilizing this technology, and volatility is not a good thing for businesses in general, right? And if we go forward with the idea of volatility, how is it affecting today businesses in the blockchain world, is the fact that because of the lack of infrastructure, in a second I'll explain what we mean by that, a deal and a handshake happen at the same time. What do we mean? The question before was about crypto wallets, that Lilach figured out that about 30% of you have it today. So we know the technology works fantastic on transfer of crypto assets. So if you guys want to transfer me your favorite bitcoins or otherwise, I will receive it hopefully in 10 to 20 minutes. But this is not how business operates. Right? Business operates with contracts and agreements that are much longer terms. I mean, we cannot work 10 minutes at a time. We need to specialize in what we do best. I'll take it in an example later, and creating handshakes that will be later on translated a little bit later. So what do we mean by that? The moment of the handshake of reaching agreement may differentiate from the moment of the transaction. If we take an example from the normal world of hedging and the normal world of our markets, if we take future contracts, for example, and we think about a milk producer that would like to later sell his milk, he would like to guarantee what will be the price he sells his milk in 3 months' time, and not to wait till the volatility in the market adjusting it. And on the other side of that transaction, an ice cream maker or other players within the supply chain would also like to be able to get a guaranteed price for their transaction and not to be affected by the potential volatilities within this market. So we at Firmo, I'll explain more deeply what we're doing, we think there is a huge opportunity within offering toolbox that will reduce volatility within this space, and as Lilach mentioned before, create infrastructure for existing businesses and other growing businesses to create derivatives in a secure manner on the blockchain to actually help reducing that volatility. Just before I'm getting more specific into how we do it and how we translate it, I just want to take a couple of minutes to discuss the size of the derivatives market that most of you know is enormous, but for the few that haven't, this is maybe the lowest estimation I've seen of the derivatives market, which said 11 trillions in half a year traded. Some of the top estimations getting also to the world of 1.2 quadrillion, which is like 1,200 trillion. But regardless of what is the right number in between, this is a huge chunk of the economy, especially compared to the full world GDP, about $74 trillion. So it is a huge market, and as the infrastructure allowing us to move a lot of that infrastructure to decentralized over the blockchain, we think it's really exciting, and we need to generate solutions to do that. So how do we actually planning to do it? I think that Lilach mentioned the importance of smart contracts. So while smart contract technology, such as the one that are able to be built on top of Ethereum, is a great offering because it offers people to, let's call it again, handshake today and transact later to follow smart contracts and reach the agreement. It has some challenges and some infrastructure challenges that we are very keen to help growing and solving. The first one is some issues of security of smart contracts. I'm sure many of you heard some of these case studies. One of them is the case of the, all right, doesn't work as well. One of the cases is the DAO hack, that where about $150 million were captured, out of which about $60 million were lost. Just to make this number about sounds much higher and more robust as it is, at the time that was 20% of Ether in circulation, right? Today at about 40 billion valuation of Ethereum, that will be about 8 billion. And just think about the amount, 20% of the assets available are attacked. Think about 20% of US dollars attacked, right? This is crazy. A couple of other examples are the Parity wallet, where some funds has been frozen. Happy to get more into details after the presentation. And again, about $280 million potentially lost for forever. We don't know how it will be resolved, but that seems like a likely solution. And what we want to mention but is that it's just the tip of the iceberg. So these are big examples, but the recent research examining almost 20,000 contracts that existed on Ethereum at the time, seen vulnerabilities in roughly 44-45% of them. That's a very serious problem. In a second, we'll discuss how do we provide solution for the security issues. Second issue is Solidity developer. How many Solidity developers we have here today? How many of you? All right, 2 guys from my team, so good to know we can still kick ass. But for the rest of you, this is an example of Solidity code. It's not most user-friendly, and I can tell, it's paying to these guys, that good Solidity developers are very costly and usually want to work on innovative startups. It is a bit difficult for your favorite bank, an early adopter, going back to Lilach's example before, to actually hire these people and have them build their infrastructure because it's extremely competitive. There are a few members of it, and even if they have it to work on it, there are a lot of problems with security coding with it directly. So what we see here in this Solidity code is that it's not that simple to work with it, and it requires very specialized knowledge into developing it. The third issue is that Solidity is also very much affiliated with Ethereum, and maybe Ethereum is going to be the infrastructure of the future, but who knows, right? It may be Ethereum, it may be one of the others big blockchain that has been growing up in the moment, like Neo, Cardano, EOS when it comes out, and many others. So when you actually spend the effort and found somehow to hire these Solidity developers and found people to review your code to make sure it's insecure, you also completely attached to Ethereum. And then you're also attached to that. And as many business owners knows, if they've been attached to SAP, it's a little bit hard to switch. And we see it a lot in the ERP solution. So what is our approach to solve that? Is we created infrastructure that allow secure, simple, and platform agnostic support into infrastructure for financial services. A bit a long sentence, but let me try and clarify it, right? So the first part here, let's go with an example. This is a future. Actually, as a side note, if you're interested, we'll actually run a demo of our system working after that presentation. So we're not sitting down here and telling you one day we will develop something like that, but we're talking about actually stuff that's been produced over the last couple of years. So in this case, you'll have Ethereum against Gnosis sort of future that starts on the 14, I guess it's past time, 14th of January, and will end on the 19th of August. And you have agreed what would be the ratio of transferring them. And on top here, you see a very short and small code that can be utilized to run that transaction. Not that specific code, but I will show you in a second how it's run. And I will also explain a bit why it's secure. But what you can also see is that it is very simple and short amount of code. And I'll explain why it's platform agnostic. So security, first issue. If some of you remember, in between I mentioned that I used to work for the Air Force, and one thing that mentions about real-time system, about train scheduling, and about satellites that go to space, is that these are extremely important real-time systems where security is really important, right? We always say, oh dear, my iPad just restarted, or how bad is the system, but you don't want your airplanes to restart on your line, right? This would be a bit worse. The same train scheduling means life casualties, and if you have a satellite and you lose it in space, not the best day in the office. So how do we deal with that real-time system? We secure a code with tools for formal verification. So of course, no code will ever be 100% zillion% secure, as you all know it, but there are levels of developing the code, and formal verification is a known technology used that real-time system to allow secure coding, and that's done by actually mathematically proving the code, why it actually works. I would love to share with you why and how we design our code. I'll just give you a short highlighter that it's about the fact that financial contracts are finite time for the most of them, and we can utilize that to create a finite language, and it's finishing transaction, but it's a bit technical. So come and ask me later, and I will be love to geek around here. But I won't bore the rest of you. But we have this formally verified code. The second thing, we spoke about simplicity. Here you see any questions so far, actually? Or no. Here you can see an example of how a smart contract in Solidity will be sort of long as much details, and how simple in higher font is a smart contract written in Firmo lang, which is a language that is formally verified. I'll actually walk with you a live example afterwards, so you can actually see it, and we'll get into much details at that stage. The third thing is about being platform agnostic, and that's actually a result of a design choice we made early on, which is creating Firmo lang outside the blockchain. So what does it mean? We create our language externally to the blockchain, and then we write compilers to support each specific blockchain. Currently we're supporting Ethereum, which practically means we're also supporting Q2, which is the second biggest blockchain in China. Also an investor in our platform. And we're looking into supporting a few other blockchain technology, and then we can actually provide the idea of users of our language to both have a secure language, easy to use, you don't need to hire the largest and most extensive developers, and also to support directly a variety of blockchain. So this is how we design our infrastructure. One of the things we're looking to enable with our infrastructure is, for example, and I can say Martin has started working on it actually, is a project to allow short positions on a variety of futures and blockchain technology. We're actually working on that together with eToro. They actually gave us good cases, and with their CEO that we were also introduced by our lovely investors, and we're in dialogue with them. They are not yet a client of ours, but we are hoping for that, and we are very much appreciating of their input they have given us so far. In terms of partnership, we mentioned Iron just before. Also Bancor, if some of you know them, they have a liquidity network, so a decentralized exchange, and they are also investors in our project, and they already have the intention of listing derivatives based on the Firmo protocol listed on the decentralized exchange. Our contacts to them actually come early on because I had the pleasure of working with the founders of Bancor and writing the white paper, and before that in the past. So I tried not to bore you too much with time, and I would be very happy to show you a showcase. But maybe we'll have a more interactive discussion with Rachel here.
Let's have a discussion. We can maybe pull up a chair perhaps.
Yeah, of course.
So it feels as if you're sort of pioneering in this space, launching Firmo, and obviously an early adopter. What was your first blockchain encounter?
Right, so I think I mentioned earlier that 3 years ago I went to the blockchain space, and I guess everybody have this through the rabbit hole sort of process to blockchain, or many people at least. I didn't intend to it. I was asked to do some project with Nordea on KYC, and I was reluctantly convinced to do that. And then I started working with it, and of course before it I saw Satoshi's work, and I actually also invested, also lost some money in Mt. Gox, but also enjoyed that.
How long are we talking? How far back?
That's about 3 years ago, but when I got to that, I thought that, wow, this is amazing technology, and we built a solution for KYC, and yeah, never looked back at that without.
And you've got a very strong team, and you're kind of based, you've got one foot in Tel Aviv and another foot in Copenhagen, tapping into both ecosystems. Maybe tell us a bit about your team. And
yeah, so we have a few, so we are a big team, we're about 15 at the moment. And on the management side, we have a few veterans in this space. One of the guys helping us with marketing and operation has been through 2 exits in the past, and 1 IPO, not ICO, right? In traditional, and very experienced and helping us a lot. And another one used to work with Kolu, I guess the one startup of the year in Israel last year, and bring a lot of knowledge on the operation, business, and going through an ICO here in the past, you can also tell us a lot about legal elements that are important to follow. We have about 8 developers, full stack, many of them, some of them are here. And yeah, very proud of the team.
And strong advisors as well. Tell us a bit about your advisors.
Yeah.
You've kind of got a foot also in the academic environment as well, so which is giving you access to experts.
Yeah, so we've been very fortunate. We have both academic and let's call it blockchain advisors. We have actually 5 professors, 4 features in a webpage from experts that actually help us building the product. We deeply appreciate their involvement because it helps us stay on the cutting edge of things and really ensure that we are building things the right way. And we have a lot of experts from the blockchain world as well. Actually, a few of them are not yet announced, but some big names there as well.
That's good. And many Copenhagen based as well.
Oh yeah, we're sitting here in the FinTech Center. I can see a few familiar faces here, and that I had the pleasure to discuss before. So again, I'm not sure I mentioned before, but just to be clear, we're an infrastructure provider, right? So we give a lot of examples of how exchanges and other members can list and build derivatives, but we want to enable people and exchanges the ability of doing it in a secure and decentralized manner. And we're not intending ourselves to becoming an exchange or so.
So the users would be who exactly?
The users will be, for example, exchanges on the blockchain and the traditional world. So exchanges could be Bitfinex, Binance, could be eToro, as we mentioned before. Can also be more old-fashioned is not old, but if Saxo or some of the banks are ready to go to that next stage, we're very encouraging that.
Mm-hmm.
We actually put a lot of our timeline in 2019 of supporting more traditional banking. Mm-hmm. I know from working with them in the past, they usually don't move too fast. Mm-hmm. So we start working with the ones that are ready.
Okay. So you're already wheels in motion. We're speaking with some consumers at the moment. You've got partnerships that are sort of underway in discussions. I think you spoke about eToro.
That's right. So we have a partnership with Bancor on the decentralized. So we had 3 areas where we want to have partnership to work with, and we're a startup. We can't do too many things at the same time, obviously. So one is a decentralized exchange because we want to offer in the decentralized world. There we currently have an agreement with Bancor. Another one is a centralized exchange. If the relationship with eToro will build on, that will be a perfect match for us. Mm-hmm. And one is a platform where we're currently looking between the Qtum and EOS and also Cardano and Neo, and we're looking for what is the right platform to support after Ethereum.
Mm-hmm. Can I perhaps open it up to the audience and see whether any questions? Go ahead.
Hey, I'm Pia. So you do sovereign as well?
Sorry,
sovereign ledger. I mean, you said you are agnostic. So
yes.
Have you tried it with sovereign?
Sovereign?
Sovereign. SOVRIN.
No, we haven't looked into that. I'll write it down and we'll look into that. The one that we looked into so far are mainly Neo and Qtum. We met the management team of both in Shanghai when we were visiting there 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And we are building relationship to them at the moment. As I mentioned before, specifically Qtum are very interested and also invested in our product. We also looking into a few of the more functional blockchains, such as Cardano, because we think there are a lot of, think they have a lot to offer in security. We had a discussion to Charles Hutchinson and some of the team there to learn about what they're doing. And we're very, very impressed with the way they build up the platform. And we're still serving it. We haven't decided on which blockchain we're going to build on the next level, but we're in some advanced discussion with some of these teams. I don't want to expose more before we reach agreement.
Just. And another question, as worked for that bank you mentioned as well in the Nordics, in Nordea. So not specifically that one, but in general, how do you foresee, and also for our Delia, how do you foresee actually the brick and mortar banks to really, cope with this change? As you know, openly, at least here in the Nordics, they are very, very keeping their, no really comments on anything. And yes, we are following, but how do you foresee, you are now in the interface, do you think that the European banks will get it, or will it be Asians and Americans and Israeli banks?
I think it's a great question. I think, it's hard to call banks early adopters. It's a little bit against the culture. My personal view is that they see blockchain as a hedging strategy, which means we're now killing it in our main business. We need to hedge ourselves in case it doesn't go that well and maybe this channel is finished. I have really hoped that they move faster. I have to say, I used to be more naive than I am today. So when we came with the project to do KYC,
yes, I know.
we went to Nordea, we were in Oslo, we met the head. I mean, it was amazing because we met the head of that product at the time. And she was like, she was amazing, by the way. She was like looking to how can we save like 2%, 5% because KYC is so expensive. And we said to her and said, you can save probably 50, 60% of that because you can really share it between banks. And they said, we're already doing it. I would expose more because it was, so we were like, wow, and it was like amazing. And she escalated all the way to the official management of Nordea. And we waited to hear from them. And then they say, oh, maybe in 9 months we'll do something. And like for a startup, this is better say no, right? It's not. So I hope to see this engagement like we see with iAngels or let's say people like that. Let's rock, let's do something. So this is why we're working more with partners that see the opportunity. And taking it back to the crypto world, right? One of the things we like about eToro is that they were definitely fast movers. They've seen it. They're one of the first platforms that you can buy with fiat, Neo, and many other platforms and many other products. And I think this is really innovative because I can have a crypto wallet of everything. Our company can have it, but for more people, the ability they can just log into a normal fiat place and take a position on crypto, it's actually solving something that there is need for. And I think the fact that they're moving fast is really exciting for us. So we'll start with these kind of players, and we really hope the other ones will be ready. I mean, I think they want to be disappearing. I mean, I'm not saying it like, who are we, right? We're a startup, but I think that they will integrate, but they will not move unless they are forced to it. And
So clearly it's an interesting game going on here, and you're trying to get as good a position as possible with your agnostic technology. In a best case scenario, where do you see Firmo in 4 to 5 years time, which is a long time here? How are you positioned in this area?
In the best case scenarios, when derivatives going to run on the, there will be several competitors, right? We cannot expect that one winner to have it all. But we would like to be one of the key players in that strategy to have, say, a serious percentage of the market at the time. So if trading of derivatives and a big portion of it will run on the Firmo protocol, on the blockchain, we'll be very happy, very satisfied. I mean, we think it's going to be huge there, reducing volatility and offering derivatives. I mean, I think regardless of the features that we're adding on, right? We're trying to bring secure, simple, and agnostic. There will be need to derivatives anyway in that market. So we hope to be a key player within this space.